Hi, I'm Julian Greystoke, and I'm a horse girl. I also have no voice because I was just at a convention helping run the boffer room, and I basically talk loudly for 3 days straight. So, it could be worse. It could be worse. My voice could be way more destroyed. I'm actually pretty happy with the level it's at right now. Anyway, I went to go see the movie Nope. Which I was rather excited about for a number of reasons, but one of those reasons was that it was set on a horse ranch and starring characters whose jobs were to train horses for movies. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm going to be giving my review of the movie from the point of view of someone who has worked with horses much of their life. So obviously this review, like I feel like any review will be heavily tinged with my opinion as well as my own experiences, but is not necessarily what every single person who knows about horses and animals is going to get from this movie. But I really wanted to come at it from this angle. If you are familiar with my channel, I do talk a lot about animals in media, and in fact I have multiple videos about what media gets wrong about horses. I was really hopeful that this movie would not do as badly as some other movies I've seen with horses in them. I was really hoping that the creators of this movie would go the extra mile to have horses and horsemanship and horse training expressed as accurately as possible. While I myself am not a horse trainer, I have done some training for my own personal horses, and I've worked with a large number of horses when I used to work at a stable. The shadow of the camera is like hitting me right on the face and it bothers me. This review is going to contain spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie Nope and you want to go see it, this is not the review for you. We are going to be talking about all kinds of things that they did and choices they made, with especially the animal behavior on display in this movie. And for that we're going to have to spoil the plot, the whole plot. All of it. See you later! Come back after you've watched the movie. I liked the movie, so you should go watch it. Bye. Okay, you either came back after watching the movie or you're still here because you have seen the movie, right? I feel like a lot of reviewers are going to be coming at this movie from a bunch of different angles, and all of them are going to be cool and valid, but obviously, like I said, I'm a horse girl, so let's talk about the animal stuff in this movie. And I might also throw in a few unrelated to animal things that I liked or didn't like about the movie too. I have not written down any notes. This is one of my impromptu, hey, I've got like an hour and I just feel like it kind of movie reviews. So the movie starts out with a scene of a chimpanzee getting out of control, brutally attacking someone. It's on the set of a TV show. You know how, I think back in like the early 90s, I forget when this TV show was set, but I think it was in the 90s, we were really into chimpanzees in our movies and stuff, and I've always disliked that. The movie industry uses juvenile chimps, or used to, now that we're mostly sticking to CGI, so that's a great thing, but uses juvenile chimps because adult chimpanzees are incredibly dangerous. But it was a really cool and affecting scene. Every time in this movie that they try to exploit any animal for like spectacle, for entertainment, for money, it goes badly. In the beginning, they try to get the horse in the commercial, the horse reacts poorly. Every time that they try to get the alien to cooperate with them, it goes poorly until the very end where she just manages just barely to get a picture of it. And of course there's the thing with the chimp where they are exploiting the animal for their TV show, and that goes poorly. So there might be something being said there about like the treatment of animals in Hollywood, potentially also the treatment of people in Hollywood, but I'm just focusing on the animal angle of this whole situation. I'm sure other reviewers can talk more about the exploitation of the humans in Hollywood, especially someone like the character of Ricky, who after the attack, after he suffered that horrible trauma, the only thing most people knew about him had to do with the chimp and not him as a person. I don't know if any of this was intentional, but it seems like there could be potentially a lot of cool stuff happening here. We find out a little bit more about this scene later, and I believe, personally, I think it was inspired by a brutal attack that took place some time ago. A woman named Sandra had raised a chimpanzee in her home. That chimp, as it grew, unsurprisingly began to display behavioral issues until one day it brutally attacked Sandra's friend, a woman named Carla. So I do think that that moment was inspired by this real life event. And I almost wonder if this was possibly one of the inspirations for the movie as a whole, like one of the very first inspirations. If you want to know more about the brutal chimpanzee attack that I just mentioned, I will link it in the doobly-doo. Then we cut to a horse farm, Haywood Horses, I believe, where they raise and train horses for use in Hollywood. And here we run into, right away, one of the first moments where I was like, darn it. Because almost immediately the horse does not behave realistically. I do believe that, I'm looking at everybody's names here, Keith David, who played the dad Otis, I think he was given like the minimum amount of training for dealing with the horse. He does sit on the horse, but immediately when he got up there, I'm like, he looks uncomfortable. He does not look relaxed like a horseman of his experience would be. And then things start falling from the sky. Coins, keys, bits of metal start falling from the sky. They hit the dad on the head, which later kills him. But the horse that he is on does not react. This horse later gets a key stuck in its butt. We don't see when this happens, but when stuff is pelting down from the sky, this horse is just completely chill. It is as if nothing is happening. And then when his rider like dies and falls off of him, the horse is like, okay. Now I know he's a Hollywood trained horse, so they are used to riders like slumping off of them. That's one of the things they're trained for. But if the key hit that horse at any point while the rider was still on him, there should have been some kind of reaction. A bolt, a buck, anything. But this horse was completely calm all the way through. And this is a major problem I had with this movie, is the level of calm that these horses were always displaying. Now you might be saying, hey, these are Hollywood horses. Of course they're super, super chill. They're trained to be. But there were several situations where the horse was supposed to freak out where I did not believe that it freaked out. These horses were more bomb-proof than I've ever seen a horse be. But the dad dies, and now OJ, the son, is in charge of the ranch. And OJ is a really interesting character because he's very in his own head. He's shy, he's introverted, he doesn't make eye contact with a lot of people, which is something that will come up later in the story. There's a lot with like animal behavior in this story, and OJ does not behave in the way that like other humans would want him to behave. I personally would have loved it if we saw him being more, just even slightly more open and comfortable around the horses. But he was sort of always in a state of discomfort, no matter where he was or what he was doing. So I was just like a little bit disappointed. I wanted to see him just relax, just unclench just a smidge more when he was around the horses. As it was, it kind of gave me the idea that he didn't really like the horses, and that was one of the problems I had with this movie. I couldn't figure out how much any of these characters, him or his sister, cared about the horses. At first I was like, okay, OJ, he's in charge of his father's ranch, but he doesn't want to be. He resents it. He resents the horses. He doesn't really like working with them. He takes care of them because he has to. He was very into like doing the chores and the routine, but it didn't seem like he did it out of love. It just seemed like he did it out of a sense of duty. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a story. He doesn't really care about these animals at all. He's just taking care of them because that's what his dad used to do. And also the sister who comes back into the picture, she's kind of that sort of wild child who went away from the family and now she's come back because dad has died. She's trying to get OJ like out of his shell and to be like the brother that she remembers. And she even has a scene where she talks about there was a horse that she was supposed to be given to train when she was like 9 or 11 years old, I can't remember, but very young. And she was going to be training a horse herself, but then her dad decided, no, I like this horse, I want to train it myself. But we almost never see her in contact with a horse throughout this movie, and I definitely never thought that she cared about the horses at all. I don't know how much of it was the actress not feeling comfortable around the horses, or how much of it was just the storytelling, just sort of feeling fine, just telling us that they were horse people versus showing us. OJ, at least you do see him in interaction with the horses, but the sister, I will say that they do seem to have taught OJ's actor, Daniel Kaluuya, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, how to ride, and he doesn't seem completely terrified when he's in the saddle, and it does seem like he is actually riding the horse even up to speeds of a canter in several scenes. Faster than that, though. Anything faster than a canter, when he's galloping later on, it's definitely wide shots and definitely CGI involved. So they taught him to ride, but not like so well that he's comfortable galloping on the horse. Which, I mean, is fine. It's better than a lot of movies where the actor will never even be on the horse at all. Now maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they did a really good job of cutting around it and using a fake horse, but it definitely seemed like he was at least comfortable enough to ride up to speeds of a canter. And he did seem to know, at least for the most part, what he was doing up there on that horse. That's something I was really hoping to see. I wanted to see actors being trained to actually ride. That's something I always pay attention for in movies and shows. But I did have some trouble, again, like I said, believing that these characters actually cared about the horses at all, especially as things started to happen to them. One of the horses leaps over a fence that he should not really be able to leap. Like, it is possible, but highly unlikely, especially for Western trained horses. These horses, all we see them with is Western training. So this horse leaps out of a round pen and takes off into the night. And OJ, I know that he's a calm guy, but like, he is so chill. He seemed to have expected that horse to leap that fence. He was just like, oh. I have never met a horse person who would be so nonchalant about a horse leaping a fence of that height and taking off into the night, especially since that horse was moments ago right beside him, standing very calmly. He goes to look for the horse, but again, I didn't believe that he actually cared. He didn't even bring a bucket of grain with him to shake. He just drove around for a little while, decided he couldn't find the horse, and gave up. Clearly doesn't care. He doesn't care if the horse is loose. He doesn't care if the horse runs through a barbed wire fence. He has no concern for this horse. And that's when I started to believe that he doesn't care about these horses. He just views them as a millstone around his neck. If they escape, they escape. Oh well, that's one less horse he has to worry about. And it felt that way for every single horse until the end, where I was certain that he was going to sacrifice this horse Lucky to get the aliens to reappear, but then he is like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, why? You didn't seem to care about these horses' deaths before. Why would you care about one now? Maybe because Lucky is like his horse, like he cares the most about Lucky for some reason. It's just, it threw me, because I thought for sure at this point that these characters were going to definitely just use Lucky as bait. Okay, I guess now we care about this horse. I'm not saying that they needed to turn OJ into an overtly emotional character when he is obviously not, but I needed to see something. For me, I needed to see something to prove that he didn't just hate these animals, because I went through most of the movie thinking that he did. It never seemed completely clear to me how many horses he even had on that ranch. At first I thought it was just like 3, the 2 that got eaten and then Lucky, but then we saw other horses in their stalls, and like we see them so rarely that I had no idea how many horses he had. And also, was he taking care of them all by himself? That seems unlikely, especially if he's running a ranch that supplies horses for movies. There would be other trainers, there would be stable hands, there would be grooms, there would be other people working there. Now maybe it was to show that he really was just really interested in selling off the ranch, and so he didn't have any of his help anymore. But then we really should have seen him doing a bit more work. Like, we see him doing some, but like, I needed to see him doing more. If he's the only person in charge of these horses' cares, we're gonna need to see a lot more. He needs to muck out a stall. Also, backtracking a little bit, in the very beginning, when he is shooting the commercial with the horse, he's obviously very deeply awkward being around other humans. He hates talking to people. He hates having to explain the dangers of being around a horse. His sister fortunately shows up and she does the whole spiel, although she conveniently mostly doesn't mention anything that you would need to know. Like, she mentions like 2 things. Don't make a lot of fast movements or loud noises. She doesn't mention what OJ kept trying to tell people, which is don't go around behind the horse. Now, maybe that is her character. Maybe she just doesn't care. And then this horse Lucky, who supposedly is trained to be in movies and should be very calm, and is in fact standing there like he's half asleep. They put a mirror ball in front of his face, and he spooks in an unrealistic way. Now, I know the mirror ball, the whole looking at the mirror, the eyes, people creating the movie were doing a lot with like with lenses, with eyes, with vision, with being perceived. But so I know that was part of that, but we're not talking about that in my particular review. I'm sure other reviewers will cover that angle a lot more. If a horse was spooked by something in front of him, he would not kick behind him. He would head up, back, possibly raising his feet off the ground, possibly not, but like something scared was shoved in his face, he would go up and back and away. He would yank on OJ's arm. He might run into someone or something behind him, but he would not kick behind him when the frightening thing was in front of him. So I would have been fine with the spook because it was there artistically in the story, except for it was done the wrong way. It's done the wrong way. I will give this movie some credit. The horses are quieter than a majority of movies where they're just like whinnying non-stop. But these horses do a lot of blowing, like to prove that, I don't know, they're alive. I don't know. Horses don't usually blow like that unless they have been working out. And a lot of time the horse would just be like standing there completely calmly, obviously not breathing heavily because you could see his nostrils. And when horses are blowing that hard, like where it's audible, their nostrils will be moving. Yeah, I know, this is more than you ever wanted to know about horses. But hey, that's what I'm here for. So after the deaths of a couple of horses and a whole bunch of people, our characters finally decide that Lucky the horse deserves to live, and so they make him part of their big alien plan. The alien puts out like an EMP, so all electronics die. They get a hold of this like weird Hollywood auteur guy who uses an old-fashioned film camera that he built himself with a hand crank so they can film this alien, and they do all of this crazy and quite frankly very interesting and cool and fun like Rube Goldberg device of getting this alien to come down, chase the man on the horse. Things go wrong, but hey, Lucky the horse does live, so that's nice. I knew there were going to be horse deaths in this movie. I mean, there's a horse being lifted into the air, like on the promotional poster. So I knew aliens were going to kill horses. I was just wishing that the people would have had more reactions about it. So let's talk about some other animal behavior stuff that I found really interesting in this movie. First of all, the alien. Really bizarre alien. I liked it. It was sort of unlike other aliens that I have at least seen in movies. I did notice that from the bottom it kind of looked like a cowboy hat, and I don't think that was an accident. But mostly it was a giant floating sphincter that sucked things up in a tornado and then ate them. But it always spat out the non-organic material, including the time that it accidentally eats a fake horse with a streamer of flags tied to it, and then they sort of traumatize the alien with the streamer of flags. And that's one of the things that this movie is kind of talking about with animal behavior is both desensitization and animal, like, memory, how they will be traumatized by something, and human memory and trauma. It's kind of like tying it all together, like memory, trauma, both with animals and with people. The UPS guy came, and I had to wait for him to leave. Anyway, I think I was discussing, like, triggers, both human trauma triggers and animal trauma triggers. In the beginning, we start out the story with the chimpanzee attack, and the chimp is very clearly triggered by the popping of some balloons. So either the balloons themselves or the popping of those balloons made him go into fight mode. Similarly, when the alien eats the fake horse, it is unpleasant for the alien, it traumatizes the alien, it doesn't want to redo that experience again, so it avoids flags and streamers and anything that likes flappy. So later on, when Lucky the horse is wearing the flags, the monster will associate him with fake horse, not real edible horse. Similarly, we deal with human reactions to trauma with the character of Ricky, who becomes obsessed with this alien, sort of in a response to the horrible trauma he has experienced as a child with the chimpanzee attack. By the time the chimpanzee finds little baby Ricky hiding under the table, it seems to have calmed down, which may have left him feeling both traumatized and like he had some sort of weird connection to the animal. And he has sort of a similar relationship with the alien. He feels that he's connected to it. He feels that he has some kind of rapport with it, which of course results in him getting eaten by an alien. But along with this idea of trauma and triggers, we have it juxtaposed against behavioral training, which we get to see with the horses. We don't see a lot of it, and I really wish there had been more of it, but we have the main character, OJ, working with the horse to desensitize it to these like flappy guys that you often see outside of like car dealerships. I don't even know what they're called, these balloon guys, you know, with the arms. He desensitizes the horse to that. I do wish that had been, like I said, a little bit more drawn out and a little bit more realistic, but I do see it being like a parallel to the reactionary state of like the alien and the chimpanzee versus him teaching the horses how to like not be afraid of certain stimulus. Again, this horse Lucky is incredibly calm. So calm. Like there's no way he could have desensitized this horse to being face to face with a giant sky alien, but when he is, the horse is still completely under OJ's control and doing as he says and not trying to bolt, which, again, super duper extra special unrealistic. Even the most calm, well-trained horse is not going to be keen on any of that situation and will be at least arguing with its rider about the best course of action. Possibly they were trying to show, again, a juxtaposition between a wild animal and domesticated animal. Obviously with both a chimpanzee not being really a domesticated animal as well as this alien being not a domesticated animal. They might have also been doing something between carnivore and herbivore, where a carnivore is far more dangerous and difficult to train than an herbivore like a horse. Another detail that I wanted to talk about that I kind of forgot to mention in this review is the idea of the inherent danger of working with animals just in general, especially in the entertainment industry. They mention Siegfried and Roy in this movie, but working with large animals like horses, you have to be able to flip a switch in your mind from this is my friend and I am safe to this is a very dangerous situation and I could die. You have to be able to flip it as fast as the animal can. No matter how much you trust them, no matter how close your bond, there is always the chance that something could go wrong, some outside factor could come in, and that animal could hurt you. Not even maliciously most of the time, but just as a reaction to an outside factor. And then there's a thing about eye contact, which OJ figures out. He's a guy who doesn't like to make eye contact to begin with, and he knows that in the animal world, eye contact is often seen as an act of aggression. Human beings are one of the only animals that uses direct eye contact as like a good thing in our society, which seems weird to me as well. I agree with OJ. He figures out that making eye contact with the animal makes it think that you are trying to be dominant with it, and then it eats you. So, at least in the beginning when the animal is more calm, he is able to avoid being attacked several times by lowering his eyes and behaving submissively. And later they use this very cleverly when he lures the alien along by wearing a hood that has eyeballs on the back. And finally, I love a bookend. I love when things come back around, something we saw in the beginning coming back around to be a part of the ending. I really, really liked that balloons were what triggered the chimpanzee to attack, and a balloon is what kills or at least injures the giant alien. I'm here for it. That's one of my opinions that's not very animal oriented, but I just, like I said, I might throw in things I liked about the movie in here as well. As for the alien itself, it was really cool, it was really original. I know it's sort of impossible for us human beings who have not experienced anything except Earth to make a creature that is completely unlike anything we've ever seen on this planet, but they did a good job of making it very unexpected. Its final form, where it's this giant jellyfish, almost jellyfish bird almost, because when it was doing that sort of posturing, that sort of floof thing with whatever those tendrils were, it definitely reminded me of some birds and the way that they can dance with their feathers kind of pulsating out, and it was what I assume was doing a dominance display when it was trying to intimidate that balloon. But the thing about having an alien like that who is so alien, but then having it behave the way animals behave on Earth, it kind of, I understand that the whole eye contact thing was part of a larger theme. Having such an original and different alien, but then having them behave like the animals of Earth, I felt like maybe wasn't perfect. Like, for me, wasn't perfect. But it worked for the movie. To have it be where the alien behaved in a completely alien manner would not allow the movie to work the way it worked. So I do understand why they did it. Lessened the coolness of the alien just a smidge. So overall, I'm still just a little bit disappointed with the portrayal of horses. I wish that the actors had been trained more to be even more comfortable with the horses. I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like British actors just like get so much more horsey training than American actors do for their movies. British actors on horses, they always just seem so much more relaxed, so much more confident. I can always tell that guy knows how to ride. Whereas American actors, I don't know why we just like shorten the training period for our actors before they ride horses in movies, or like what's going on? Why are my American actors not feeling as comfortable on horses as British actors are? Like I said, I do think that they trained the lead actor to ride, and he did a good job from what I could tell. And he was kind of an uncomfortable guy just like in his life, so the fact that he looked uncomfortable standing next to a horse was like, I guess not surprising, because he looked uncomfortable everywhere that he was. For people who supposedly train horses, they did not seem to know very much about those horses or their behavior or personalities. It also would have been really cool to see more horse behavior in general, so that we could have it with the whole alien behavior thing, and using what we know about animals and how they behave to figure out how we feel about the alien, because again, we figured out that it was territorial and it doesn't like eye contact because of our main character's first-hand experience with animals himself. At one point, there is a line about something a horse is doing off screen. It's almost a throwaway line where they're like, oh, Ghost, who's one of the horses, is acting all dumb and territorial. And it's just so they can get the idea, hey, maybe this alien is territorial. But I would have loved to see the horse pushing the other horses around, being bossy, being sassy, something like that. Actually see the horse behavior rather than just being told Ghost is doing this. Alright, so I think that's all I've got for you for this very random and probably very rambly review by a horse girl of the movie Nope. I would say that yes, you should go see the movie, but if you watched all the way through this review, you've seen it, right? Because otherwise you're probably very confused. Closing thought, that character Angel who got tangled in the barbed wire, definitely hope that he has his tetanus shots. Okay, bye!